Hello, and welcome to the No Wrong Notes podcast, a show hosted by me, Veronica Kokos, holistic voice teacher and singer just like you. Grab a cup of tea, relax, and sit back as we discuss all things singing technique, mindset tips, and more so you can show up as the most confident and creative singer you can be. Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of No Wrong Notes. Today's episode is all about AI and singing. What is the point of using a voice teacher when you can learn to sing from AI? What's the point of making your own music from scratch, writing lyrics, chords, and melodies yourself when a machine can do it for you? We'll be talking all about whether AI has any role when it comes to singing, whether you're a singer, songwriter, or just a singer looking to improve your vocals. Now, full disclosure, I am somewhat of an anti-AI person. I really try not to use it unless I'm forced to or unless I'm in a bind. Like, I'll be writing my bi-weekly newsletter and I need some last-minute editing. I know that even that isn't great. I know that some people might be listening to this and be like, how dare you? But I'm really actively trying not to use it because one cause that is very important to me is the environment, climate change. And it's really not good for the planet that we live on. AI is not good for the planet that we live on. It is so energy intensive. It requires a lot of energy and water. And until engineers figure out how to make AI less energy intensive and less harmful to the communities that data centers are located in, I'm not going to advocate for AI use. And, I think that there's so many issues with it. It consumes so much energy, which we then end up paying more for because of data centers. I know that here in Virginia, Dominion Energy, our energy provider in good chunks of the state, most of the state, is trying to charge us more basically over the next couple years to offset data center usage because Virginia is home to a lot of data centers, both in Northern Virginia and even here around Richmond. And these data centers pollute communities like those outside of Memphis, Tennessee. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're like, what is she saying? Memphis? What? Use your friend Google, though not the AI assist option. There's a lot of reporting that's been done on it where these data centers, I believe it's the one that Elon Musk built outside of Memphis, where basically it's poisoning. This data center is like poisoning the air in the area. It's contributing to air quality decline and all these other environmental factors. So definitely worth checking out if you haven't heard those stories. Again, use Google. I'm not here to debate the ethics of AI use, though. Like I said, I try to not use AI, and I want to make that clear. But that's not what this conversation is going to be about. Just because, I'm not a specialist when it comes to AI. I'm not a journalist who's reporting on those things. There are other sources you can check out that definitely write and speak more eloquently on the subject than I do. But I do want to talk about what role AI has when it comes to singing and whether it's useful or not. Let's first discuss its role in learning how to sing. Will AI replace voice teachers and vocal coaches? While, of course, I'm biased, I don't think so. Teaching any skill, singing or otherwise, I'm not talking about classroom subjects here. I know that there's already a school in Northern Virginia that is mostly ran by AI. Basically they have these AI programs that are teaching students basic subjects. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about skill learning. Things that require hands-on physical experience. I think teaching any skill, singing or otherwise, requires taking the entire student into account. A good teacher will consider not only how an exercise or a song is working for a student, but also how to adapt to any challenges that may come up. Adapting to challenges when they show up in a student singing requires understanding how that student ticks and how they learn. Not to mention the ongoing relationship that a teacher has with a student. I'm sorry, but AI will often just respond to things in the moment. Like AI is not really, like, at least most AI from what I understand is not sentient. I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that. Like I said, I'm not the person to be asking these AI questions, but from what I understand, it can't think like past, present, future, if that makes sense. Like it's not, if an AI is working with the student, it's maybe not taking into account that student's history with a certain subject or a certain skill. For example, I was working with a student this week who's been working on pitch accuracy, aka getting more consistent at matching pitch. And over the past few months, we've been working on things like ear training, strengthening his falsetto, and working on onset exercises to find better vocal fold coordination. At face value, it might just seem like, oh, okay, those are the skills that the singer needs to work on, and AI can generate some more exercises for him. The thing is, this student has some processing issues, as in it takes me presenting the information to them several different ways, in ways that make sense to them and their history, like the history we've had together, working teacher-student, plus instruction broken down into multiple steps for them to grasp what we're working on. This is often the case for neurodivergent singers, and I believe that only a real live teacher can adapt their teaching in creative ways for these kinds of students to understand. I'm sorry, I don't think AI is all that creative. It literally spits out information or generates art based on prompts that we humans give it. And like I said, it's maybe not thinking past and future. It's responding just to whatever information or prompt you're giving it in the present. It can't think for itself. Like I said, I might be wrong on that. I'm sure that there are sentient AIs out there, but I'm just thinking like ChatGPT, for example. But AI, like ChatGPT, literally scrapes the internet and bases its answers on the content we humans have already created. Of course, back to this idea of sentience, as AI becomes more sentient, which I hope doesn't happen, but I'm not counting on my optimism. As it becomes more sentient, it might be better able to diagnose issues that singers face, but I still stand by my point that machines aren't able to form a holistic picture of an individual singer and their struggles. AI might get to the point where it can hear what's happening in a singer's voice and diagnose what's going on, but singers are more than just a voice. They are humans with an entire history of lived experiences, stressors, and anxieties, and I don't think a machine can pick up on those things unless you type those things into ChatGPT or whatever machine you're using. I know that there's been arguments that, especially with facial recognition technology, that with facial recognition technology, the system can kind of read your facial expressions and determine kind of certain things from that. But literally, I'm reading a book on that exact technology now, and that even that technology is not perfect. In fact, it's often pretty wrong. So while I think there are certain things that AI will be able to do in the future when it comes to singing instruction, I don't think that machines will be able to replace teachers entirely. And personally, I don't want to work with a machine. I want to work with a human being. But that's beside the point. That's my preference, and someone else might have a different preference. Now, let's talk about AI when it comes to songwriting. I feel like this is the bigger thing when it comes to singers and songwriters. Obviously, we know that AI can help with songwriting. Not that I want to use it, but it can help you make a song, but AI isn't perfect. And if I'm being honest, a lot of the AI generated music I've heard sounds really flat. Like it feels and sounds very lifeless, most likely because it was generated by a machine. AI can follow the formula you typically use to write a song, creating chord progressions, melodies, and lyrics. But in my opinion, what makes songwriting special is hearing a writer's voice, not just their singing voice, but their artistic voice in their lyrics. There's something so vulnerable in sharing your innermost thoughts with the world, something about that feels so human that a machine just can't replicate. So while we can use AI to make music, the question is, why should we, if we can make something even more special without the use of AI? An Instagram friend of mine messaged me that AI can be useful when you're stuck trying to decide which chord can come next in a progression. And while I respect that, and I respect those opinions, I would argue that if you're struggling to figure out the next chord in your song, it's worth practicing and studying and writing more progressions and melodies. That's literally how we did it in the good old days of going through music theory class. You wrote something, and if you got stuck, you played around with chords and melodies until you found the next best thing that worked. Incorporating AI into the songwriting process, especially when it comes to brainstorming and finding chords and lyrics to use, feels like an attempt to make the process more efficient. Songwriting isn't an efficient process, and I know some people might take issue with that. They're like, well, if you're being paid by a record label or you're working with a producer, you've got to come up with something quickly. But again, songwriting isn't an efficient process. If you write something and it sucks, and you learn from your mistakes. That's literally how we did it in the good old days. And I mean, if you were working with a producer, collaborate with the producer. I have a student who's a singer-songwriter based here in the Richmond area, and she works with a local producer. And like he helps her with the songwriting process too, like coming up with different ideas for how to make the song better, So it's like, again, I'm just pulling out different ideas for like, what are the alternatives? Like, why are we just going to jump to AI and using AI when you could literally collaborate with another human being? I'm sorry. Using AI to come up with a better chord progression so you can write faster cuts out that process of mistake making and collaboration and learning from your errors. What are you really learning when you ask a machine for a chord progression and it spits one back to you? By skipping the trial and error process and even like the collaboration process, I'd argue that you're missing out on the real lessons of songwriting and art making. So, while you can write music with the help of AI, should you? I would ask, what is your ultimate goal in writing something? Is it to make something quickly, or is it to make real art that you put some real thought and effort into? When it comes to AI and songwriting, I think we need to consider what our intentions and goals are above all. I would even argue that efficiency is killing good music and good art. You'll sometimes have artists that shall remain nameless. Okay, I'm not going to call anybody out here. That will literally put one album out 1 year and then literally less than a year later are putting out another album. And I understand that like they're trying to hold people's attention spans. They are trying to support themselves financially as artists. But I think what you then get is you get albums that really just sound like a collection of singles, songs that don't really flow all that well together or don't have like much in common. But yeah, I don't know. These are just my thoughts. And I don't know that I made the best objective points in this episode when it comes to the use of AI in singing and songwriting. Like I said in the beginning, AI usage and data centers are directly contributing to further environmental decline, and I can't get behind that. I can't get behind AI in its current form. I also have a problem with outsourcing everything we do to AI. What are we losing in doing that? Are we losing our creativity, our capacity to think critically? I think so. I'm not like a researcher or anything like that, but you literally just spend 5 minutes on the internet or on social media and you see it. And this isn't to shame anyone that uses AI either. AI tools have become so pervasive and impossible to avoid. Even if you're not using ChatGPT, Meta, aka Facebook and Instagram, has AI fully integrated into their search function. Like you cannot avoid it when you search something on Instagram or Facebook. And what I would argue though is that if you're wanting to use AI when it comes to your singing or songwriting, to be very intentional about it. Again, what are you hoping to accomplish? Have you exhausted all of your other human and technological options? Even like Google. Like, I know Google also uses energy and things like that, but dear God, like there are so many other options aside from AI. And if you have to use it thoughtfully. All right, that's it, you guys. That is my hot take episode. Like I said, maybe not the most objective episode, but gosh, I would say that when it comes to objectivity and this topic, yeah, I really don't feel any shame around it. This is it. This is how I feel about it. But you can also share your thoughts with me. Connect with me on Instagram. Message me and let me know your thoughts. If you liked this episode, if you're like, yeah, I'm 100% with her, I would love it if you could leave a 5-star rating and review. And if you want more singing content, if you want to, again, connect with me and share your thoughts with me on this topic, hook up with me on social media. Give me a follow on Instagram, on TikTok. And again, let me know your thoughts. And, one more thing. So this fall is super busy. The schedule is super busy day to day when it comes to lessons. And if you're like, I kind of would like some guidance, some vocal coaching. If you want to work together this fall, the Curious Singer program is where it's at. Specifically, if you're an adult. This is a program for adult singers, just because there's a lot of kind of like self-paced learning that I think works a little bit better for older peeps, or just adults in general. So if you are somebody that you want to get back into singing, you're an adult that maybe like sang when you were a kid and you're like, I really want to get back into that. You can check out my Curious Singer membership. That is linked in the show description. All right, that is all I've got for you. In the meantime, happy singing, y'all.